Greetings, travelers! Welcome back to Tales from the Enchanted Forest with your hosts, Fox and Sparrow.
Barev! And hello, everyone. Welcome back. We're so excited to have you here. And I'm just enjoying this beautiful, beautiful spring to summer weather that we're having. At least I'm having. And we get to enjoy a fun little tale today.
We do. I mean, it's not very warm and sunny here, but when I saw what story you picked, I was just like, we have to tell the story. I'm so in love with it. I think it's so fun. I wouldn't say it's like perfect. I was about to say like it's perfect for a cozy day, but it's not really.
It's good motivation if you want to get stuff done. And be really epic doing it, I would say.
Yes, and as a fan of fantasy stories and stories with strong female characters, I feel like this is one of those ones.
Yes, and I feel like I found this story today after reading a bunch of stories that were just kind of fine, you know? Where it's like they were all paint by numbers stories, like more so like than usual with fairy tales and folklore, with like a very clear moral at the end. And I was like, I need something with not a clear moral at the end. And where I have to leave myself going, what the heck did I just read? And I want to read it again.
Well, I mean, May, we just recently had our anniversary, and so we've covered lots and lots of stories. So sometimes it does get very tricky trying to find a story that's new but not too similar to something we've covered in the past, but still has lots to talk about. So obviously we have to find inspiration everywhere. So it's always fun when we get to go to both a new country and tell a new story.
That's right. And as Fox kind of indicated, we're going to a place we haven't gone to for stories before, but I am also very excited to come back. We haven't even started with this one, but I'm already excited to come back to this well of stories from Armenia. So, today's story comes from the 1898 book, The Golden Maiden and Other Folk Tales and Fairy Stories Told in Armenia by A.G. Seklemian. Seklemian grew up in Armenia hearing these tales and became quite the collector of folklore stories in his hometown. And as he got older, he decided to record these stories in his book. So here we have a great example of getting traditional stories from someone connected closely to the culture they are writing about, which is something we don't always get. So I really wanted to highlight and appreciate that's the source we're getting for today's tale. And as I kind of alluded to before, I'm going to be honest, I'm still trying to parse out the ending to this story. I do feel like there might be supposed to be a moral or lesson there that I'm supposed to learn, but I'm just not quite getting. So maybe Fox, you'll be able to help me a bit with that at the end. But what I do know is that I was giggling a whole lot while I read this tale. And it's just one of those stories that has rhymes and patterns, but is going to keep you on your toes more than you expect from a story like this. So, prepare yourself for the winding tale that is the Betrothed of Destiny. Once upon a time, there was the King of the West who had a son he loved very much. One day, the prince dreamed that Destiny had betrothed him to the daughter of the King of the East. This, of course, seemed crazy to him because, 1, he had never met the Princess of the East, and 2, the two kingdoms did not get along at all. But lo and behold, when he woke up, he found a betrothal ring for her on his finger. Meanwhile, that very same night, the daughter of the King of the East had the very same dream, and awoke to find the betrothal ring for the Prince of the West on her finger. So, with Destiny on his side, the only Prince of the West set out, leaving his kingdom behind to find his betrothed. Naturally, he told no one where he was going or why he was leaving. Surely there would be no consequences for these actions. After a long journey, the prince arrived in the city where the King of the East resided. Hiding his identity, the prince entered the king's service for 7 years, during which he spent many happy moments with his betrothed princess. When the 7 years had passed, he asked the king for the princess's hand in marriage as compensation for his work. And this got me thinking, Fox, we really need to start, creating a chart or documenting all of the different ways princes, earn or win or just obtain a princess's hand in marriage, because this method kind of seems boring compared to most of the others. Like, he just did 7 years of work. Like, good for him for doing the hard labor, but like, it almost seems lackluster compared to some of the others.
Well, I mean, he did get engaged to her in his dreams.
I mean, yeah, but then that means destiny's on his side. But like, he didn't slay a dragon or anything.
No, he just asked.
He just asked, and he had a bit of trickery, but no fun trickery. Just, oh, I'm not actually a prince. Meanwhile, like, the king of the West is going, wait, where'd my son go? The king was very pleased with the work the young man had done, so he agreed to this. This was a very amenable king, because he also agreed with the young man's request that the wedding festivities happen in the young man's home country rather than at his own palace. With the king's blessing, the couple of destiny went to the nearest port to board a ship that would take them to their happily ever after. Unfortunately for them, the captain of said ship was a wicked man who desired the beautiful maiden for himself. So before the ship set sail, the evil captain tricked the prince into going back ashore to make further preparations. Once the prince was off the ship, the captain weighed anchor and set sail with the beautiful princess still on board. There was nothing the lad could do except lament and bewail his bad luck. By the time the princess learned the truth of what had happened, it was too late. They were already far out at sea. The captain proposed that she marry him instead, but this only enraged her further. Frustrated as she was, she knew this was a delicate situation and that she would need to rely on her wit to get out of it. So she told him that she would agree to his proposal, but not at sea. She insisted that they first return to his home city so that they may be married lawfully. He agreed to her terms, and the next thing you know, they were docking at his home city. She told him to go on ahead and make preparations for her arrival. Not questioning this at all, the captain agreed and headed into the city. The moment he disappeared, the maiden ordered the sailors to depart at once. And so she set sail, having absolutely no idea where she was going or what she would do. Eventually, she arrived in another city. The king of that city was a young lad celebrating his wedding festival. What exactly is a wedding festival, I hear you wondering? Well, in this kingdom, it's where 40 maidens are elected to be candidates for queen. The king then chooses one to be his queen, and the remaining 39 maidens become the queen's handmaidens. Fox, can you imagine being part of this process? Like, being part of the 40 candidates for this?
I mean, I wouldn't enjoy it. Like, hey, you're pretty, but not pretty enough.
Yeah, and then, like, imagine if you did like the prince, and now you're like, oh my gosh, but then he doesn't choose you. You then have to serve the girl he did choose for the rest of your life.
The idea of having 40 of something, it does seem like a weird number, but we did do 1,001 nights, and the number 40 does come up quite often. So I'm not that shocked by the number 40. The idea of having to be part of a contest with 40 other women and then also having to then serve the one that wins, air quotes, does seem kind of cruel.
Yeah.
So I'm not really for this guy either. He seems as bad as the captain, just in a different way.
Oh, he's about to get a little worse. When the king learned that a beautiful maiden had arrived at his city's port, he was delighted. And he still needed one more maiden to complete his set of 40. Not only that, she was sure that our princess was the most beautiful among them and would certainly be chosen as queen. So she agreed to participate, but asked that the other maidens first come to her so that she could make a grand entrance. The young king agreed and sent the maidens to her ship. Once all the maidens had boarded, the princess pulled the anchor and set sail. She told her tale to the 39 maidens and asked them to accompany her until destiny showed them what to do next. I mean, these girls knew a protagonist when they saw one, so they were totally on board. I mean, they were also literally stuck aboard her ship, so I'm not sure what else they were going to do. But regardless, all eagerly promised to follow her to the ends of the earth. Now, after sailing for a long time, they came to a castle by the sea. They landed there and entered the fine castle to find 40 decorated rooms with plush beds. Not only that, but wealth and food were abundant throughout the castle. After enjoying a hearty meal, the maidens went to bed, each occupying one of the chambers. But, of course, while they slept, the owners of the castle returned. The brigands were happily surprised to see such beautiful maidens in their beds after a hard day of pillaging. Thinking quickly, the maidens pretended to be thrilled to see the brigands and coaxed them to rest in their arms. But the moment the brigands nodded off, the maidens took their swords and chopped off their heads. The next morning, the maidens put on the robbers' clothes and appeared as youthful knights. With their disguises, they took the robbers' horses and filled their packs with as much gold, silver, and gems as they could before setting off once more. After journeying, they arrived at the city to the King of the West. The following day, they heard from the locals that a new king would soon be elected for the realm since the previous king had died and their heir had, well, disappeared. Luckily for the people of the realm, they had a surefire way to find their new ruler. And no, it wasn't by, voting in a big election or anything like that. It was through a much more logical approach of trusting the selection process to the royal eagle. And so, the next day, all of the people of the realm gathered at a park outside the castle. And of course, our 40 strangers joined them on the outskirts because, well, why wouldn't they? I know if I was traveling through and had heard of a magical eagle going to select the new king, I would definitely be signing up to see that.
Yeah, but I mean, she must have known who the prince was, right?
Must she, though?
So the thing is, this is the part where I was just thinking this through as you were speaking, and I'm like, well, she had a dream that she was married to the prince. She was engaged to the prince of the West.
That's true, actually.
So, did she know it was the prince of the West? Or did she just see his image? Because in his dream, he knew it was the princess of the East, and that's why he went to her kingdom. But when he went, he was disguised as a stranger. But for those 7 years, did he not one time tell her, like, hey, actually, I'm a prince of the West, but I'm keeping it secret. But do you remember the dream you had? I had the same dream. So I'm trying to figure out if she knew, because otherwise, it doesn't make sense that when she was on the boat, she wouldn't know where to go. So that part of me was like, okay, so she doesn't know.
Yeah, I honestly, up till now, it does feel like she's just kind of aimlessly wandering. So she might know, but I really think she just stumbled upon the kingdom and was, if he was smart enough to tell her who he was, and honestly, I don't believe this guy was smart enough. I think he was the coy guy, ooh, I have a secret identity. I'm not gonna tell you though until it's most dramatic. So I don't believe he told her. She might have figured it out on her own. But I do think she's just genuinely stumbled upon this kingdom and maybe is putting some pieces together. But yeah. Also, how do you think they train the royal eagle to select the new heir? How often is this happening where they have this process in place?
I think it depends on how far back we're going, what time period this fairy tale comes from.
From long, long ago. Long
ago. Because I could see if all of the princes died, or if all of the princes went to war and then died, or they died at birth, or they died for other reasons, illness. It might be, quite wise to have an eagle trained to find the next ruler. But I don't know. It's one of those things, I think, where it's either magical or it's a symbolic thing. Or it could be one of those things that someone had a really nice eagle and they were like, my eagle only likes good people. And so the eagle went and found, because you know what they say of animals and babies will usually gravitate towards good energy. Maybe it's one of those things. The eagle is just checking the vibes.
Yeah, it's so true. So yeah, maybe it's just a good vibe check. The nobles let loose the royal eagle, which soared over the crowd with its keen eyes scanning everyone. It dove down from its high tower and perched on the head of the princess, who was still disguised as a knight. The nobles all agreed that this must be a mistake. Surely the royal eagle would not choose a random stranger to be their new king. So they let the royal eagle loose once more, but it again settled on the head of the same stranger. A third attempt yielded the same result. So no one could dispute it any longer, and everyone acknowledged the disguised princess chosen by destiny as the new king. So the nobles and the crowd took her and her companions to the castle and crowned her the new king of the realm with her companions' maid and ministers. Turns out, the royal eagle knew what it was doing because the new king became the wisest and most just ruler the country had ever seen. Everyone loved their king, and apparently she pulled off a she's the man plot well because no one ever figured out that she was a woman. Now, in my opinion, the rest of the story is 100% worth hearing, but I would honestly stop the tale here.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is just the funniest way to end it, with just this cross-dressing woman being the king and just owning it with her 40 ministers. To me, we could just stop right now, and I think it's a great story.
It's like, and the end. The maidens lived forever in this kingdom. Other people started cross-dressing as well. People got to live whatever gender they wanted to be, and the young king, sorry, not the young king, the king princess ruled forever.
I mean, also, like, she was the best ruler. It's almost like, having women in leadership can be beneficial.
Dun, dun, dun.
But there is more story to tell, and I want to be honest with the story, so we will finish it off with as originally told.
Mm-hmm.
The king princess commissioned a fountain to be built, with her image carved in the center. She placed guards to watch the fountain and instructed them to bring her any strangers who showed signs of recognizing the image. One day, a stranger came, drank from the fountain, and raised his eyes as he looked upon the image. He sighed wistfully and was arrested and taken to the king. From behind a curtain, she recognized him as the captain of the ship and ordered him imprisoned. Another day, another stranger came, recognized the image, and let out a deep sigh. This was the young king, the owner of the 39 maidens. He was also brought to her and then kept in an apartment in the palace. Finally, the princess's betrothed, the Prince of the West, now a stranger in his own lands, approached the fountain. He saw the image, sighed deeply, and was quickly taken to the palace. From behind the curtain, the king princess recognized her betrothed and quickly summoned all the nobility and wise men of the land. She brought the 3 strangers before them and began to tell her tale. The captain was hung for his actions. The king of the 39 maidens received them all, and the princess added one of her most beautiful handmaids to the group, making it an even 40. And finally, the betrothed of destiny, the prince and the princess were married, and the kingdom celebrated for 40 days and 40 nights. The prince became king, and his consort became the queen, and they all lived happily ever after. And the story ends with this curious little phrase. 3 apples fell from heaven, one for me, one for the storyteller, and one for him who entertained the company. The end.
Yay! I mean, I 100% see why you liked the ending at the king princess.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's just the way they handle the second king. I don't think he deserved, like, a quote-unquote owning the 39 maidens.
Yeah, I don't like that ending. I mean, the captain gets hung, which is fine, because he was really creepy and weird, and forcing women to marry you is awful.
Yeah.
The fact that she married the Prince of the West after he kind of abandoned her, didn't look for her, and then came back, and instead of, fighting for his kingdom and claiming that, hey, I'm actually the prince, he just kind of was content to drink from the fountain.
Yeah, and look upon her image.
Yes, I mean, girl power, but also if that's the choice she makes, then that's the choice she makes. She's allowed to choose to marry the prince.
Yeah, and also I feel like they said that, when she was king, like, she was the wisest and the most just and, like, just basically the best king they had. They don't say anything like they're a power couple. They're like, and then he became king and she's queen, and, well, they ruled together. They reigned together. It's kind of like, ooh, I wonder if there was some disputes there from the couple of destiny on how to rule the kingdom.
I mean, to be fair, he seems very passive. I don't think he doesn't seem like the type to start a fight, to be honest.
But he did travel to see her the first time. But then when I can't get over the moment like he got tricked. It was like there was nothing for him to do but weep. It's like, okay, weep for a bit, but then also, like, go find her.
Like, come on, go do something. Hire a boat and go after them.
But this is something I did enjoy about the story, was it did something similar to the Fairy Tree of Doris, where the protagonist switched suddenly.
Yes.
I was really expecting we were going to follow the prince's tale, and then we just left him and followed the princess. And I really enjoy that kind of switch. Like, this person is not interesting anymore. We're just now going to follow this person. And we haven't even really discussed, like, the part where the 40 maidens straight up just murder the 40 brigands and just steal all of their stuff.
I like
and
that
disguise themselves.
I mean, they aren't supposed to be sympathetic characters.
No.
Because obviously they're thieves, but I like the idea that they were just like, well, we'll just pretend that we're just helpless maidens we've come to, but also, I mean, the coincidence of 40 maidens finding 40 rooms and then finding 40 thieves, perfect. Because if I was a thief, I'd also be like, wow, this must have been planned somehow, because otherwise, why did they have exactly 40?
I think, I said at the beginning, I was trying to figure out the moral of the lesson. I think the moral in the lesson here is don't underestimate women, because at every point, like, the princess is underestimated and just trusted. like, why would she do anything suspicious?
Yes.
Is like what the captain did, the king with the 40 maidens, or the 39 maidens, the brigands, and frankly, the prince as well. He underestimated that she would be able to survive and get back and take care of his kingdom. So,
well, I personally love this trope of a princess pretending to be a knight or a king. So I did do a little bit of research, and I found quite a few cross-dressing princess stories. None of them have the same flair of, killing 40 men in their sleep, but for those who are interested, we do have the Greek story of the island of Lemnos, where the women killed all the men. It is also the island where Achilles tries to hide and to disguise himself as a woman before he's forced to join the Trojan War. So that story does have several different versions if you want to read that. We also have many wartime stories of cross-dressers, especially since men were usually conscripted and women weren't. So if you wanted to fight, you had to be a man. Or, in some cases, just as protection. Dressing as a man would give you, obviously, the freedom to walk around, to go around without being harassed, especially during wartime. So we do, of course, have the Ballad of Moulin. We also have the French tale of Bella Bella. And the French tale of Bella Bella is really funny because I know you mentioned He's the Man earlier. And, of course, we have Twelfth Night, which is a Shakespeare story of Viola pretending to be her brother or pretending to be a man. And then there's all these different love triangles. So in Bella Bella, the Dowager Queen falls in love with the disguised Bella Bella, whereas Bella Bella falls in love with the king, and then we have a funny reveal at the end. We also have two Italian stories, Costanza by Giovanni Francesco Straparola, and I think we've done his story before, one of his stories before, as well as The Three Crowns by, and I'm gonna butcher this name, I already know, Giambattista Basile. So there are lots and lots of stories of women pretending to be knights, pretending to be princes, pretending to be huntsmen. I think there's the story of the huntsman by the Brothers Grimm as well. So lots out there if this is something that you are interested in, because it is a fun trope and we love it.
So much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great trope, and I was so happy to find it. It's always fun, the disguise. Like, oh, you don't know, I'm actually a girl, and I'm going to kick your butt.
Well,
watch out.
I was trying really hard to find, because I thought I remembered a story of women killing thieves or their captors before, but I couldn't find any of that. I did find 40 maidens in the 1001 Nights. So there's a story in there of 40 beautiful princesses, and they do let you stay in their castle. They let the main character stay, not the main character, because 1001 Nights is a story within a story within a story within a story.
Yeah.
But they do let people stay in their castle, and you can live there happily, unless, of course, you open a forbidden door. Very...
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. And so at one point, the 40 beautiful maidens have to go away for 40 days, and they task the man, the hero, not the hero, the storyteller, I guess, with a key, and they say he can open every door except for one of them. And of course, he opens the forbidden door. But unfortunately, there is no murder, just a horse Pegasus that gouges his eyes out. That's the closest thing I could find to like 40 maidens.
That's fair.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they told him not to go there, that he would ruin everything if he did. And so he did it. Of course, the curiosity of man, very Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
But he could have had 40 maidens, and he didn't.
No, he needed to know what was behind the door.
Mm-hmm.
I get it, though. I'm a very curious person. I have definitely foregone better things, like options, but I just need to know what's in the box and what's behind the door. Speaking of tropes, kind of came up earlier. We were talking about the sea captain. And one of the ways in which she got out of marrying him at sea was she said we had to do it on land to be lawful.
Mm-hmm.
This led me down a bit of a rabbit hole because I was like, well, why would that be unlawful? But then I remembered, of course, only the sea captain has legal rights to marry people at sea. And if the captain's trying to get married, like, that makes sense, like, to me. Like, he would have to do it on land because he would normally be the person to officiate. So I was wanting to, like, look up, like, what do you do in this scenario when your sea captain wants to get married at sea?
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out that sea captains just have the right to marry someone is kind of a myth. And so if you go onto any old ship, if there's a captain, you go, like, 12 miles out at sea or something, that captain still doesn't have the inherent right to marry you. You actually need additional documentation and additional stuff usually to officiate a wedding still. Unless you are Japanese and you live in Japan, then yeah, sea captains actually there have the right to marry you, assuming that it's two people with Japanese passports. But everything else, if you're planning to get married out at sea and you want to be the captain, do your research ahead of time. Apparently it's much more complicated than I initially thought. Well, I think that's it. I think this has been a fun story to go over, and I look forward to coming back to Armenia for future tales, whether it be with 40 maidens and killing off 40 brigands, or, tricking a sea captain and sailing away at sea. But in the meantime, I think it's time for us to sail off because we've come to the conclusion of our episode.
And as always, if you want to see the show summary, notes, and find out about our previous episodes, please check those out on our website, www.talesfromenchantedforest.com. If you want to hear more from us, then join us on Bluesky at From Enchanted or anywhere else on social media, either from @Enchanted or @TalesFromEnchantedForest. However, if you are old school like Sparrow, you can always email us at talesfromenchantedforest@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. And don't forget that 3 apples fell from heaven, 1 for me, 1 for Sparrow the storyteller, and 1 for you who enjoyed the company.
And remember, there's always a place for you in the Enchanted Forest.